Just going to make sure that we are in the zone. We're live. Good news. I'm sitting out in the backyard here. This is pretty random, but just thought I'd find a bit of quiet space. We've had some big storms in the last week or so, so I'm really hoping they're all gone by the time you get here, by the way.
Yeah, it looked like the forecast clears out by Saturday, so that'll be good.
Isn't it good how now everybody's a weather forecaster. Like you just get your phone out and you work out what the weather's going to do.
Oh gosh, well, the Funny Car Chaos events, it's like they had a forecast. They were 10 days out and they postponed the event on a 10-day forecast. And I'm like, in Texas, that weather changes daily, but they pushed it out a month. So yeah, there you go.
Wow,
I
10
watch
days.
it. I use it to pack. Pack my clothes. Warm or cold, thick or thin.
Oh, that's so good. So where are you at the moment? You're in Indy in Avon?
Yeah, at my house in the basement. We got kind of a game room kind of down here. So got got all the stuff on the walls. Good backdrop.
Americans love a good basement. If you don't have a good basement, are you really American?
I grew up in Southern California and they don't have basements there. And I moved back here and I'm like, oh, it was like free space, had to have it. So I got, a lot of you got the trophies and the racing stuff down in the basement. The rest of the house, you can't. I look like a civilian in the rest of the house, but down here, this is man cave of sorts.
It is really great to have you, Larry. I really appreciate it. It's like 7:01 a.m. in Indy, the World Racing Headquarters, where it's going to get really nuts. In a couple of weeks' time, I guess the impetus towards the Indy 500 would already be building up. You'd be feeling it, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. They've already had on track testing and stuff. So last week, so they're going, and you have the Kentucky Derby, which is going to happen. I think it's always the first weekend of May, so that's about 2 hours south of here. So quite a bit going on in this part of the country.
When you get close to the raceway, as you come into Indy, I'm not sure what the expressway is, like 405 or something like that. It is like everybody's in the Indy 500. The intensity just steps up on that motorway.
Yeah, people run pretty good here. But coming from Los Angeles, people are pretty aggressive there. So
But a bit
it's
slower, right? Bit slower. Like it's like, isn't it?
in Los Angeles, you got a little bit more traffic, but when it's they if the traffic will cooperate, they try and run like the Autobahn.
Wow.
Yeah, they run pretty fast there.
SoCal is it's just such a special vibe in itself. Even as an Aussie, even in sprint car racing, Southern California was it. Like the cars there had this special, way. There was chrome and lots of gold leaf, and it had a real style about it. I can only imagine that drag racing would have been exactly the same way.
I feel really fortunate to been born and raised in Southern California and all the racetracks, and then have going with my dad to all those tracks. I mean, you had the Irwindale and the Orange County and the Lions drag strip, and it just what I tell people, it's like I didn't know any better because it's like you had that since you were born, and every other weekend you're just taking your top fuel car, which is parked in your two-car garage in a suburban neighborhood. But it was like, you go a mile away, and somebody else got a top fuel car or a funny car or something. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just that. I mean, that was where it all started. And then, as the years progress and you travel a bit more, and you see the rest of the world doesn't operate like that. And then as the price of land gets so valuable in Southern California, and then it starts, tracks start shutting down, and you start losing them, and then all of a sudden it's 50 years later and you find yourself living in Indianapolis. So like,
Wow.
it's just but it's been a great ride so far. But yeah, Southern California, definitely a car culture out there for sure. Because I mean the weather helps support it because yeah, you have pretty mild weather year round. So it's nice. You definitely have a winter back here in Indianapolis. So you gotta park things for a bit before you can get going again.
If everybody could just press share on this while you watch with Larry at the moment, we want to pump up the jam that this weekend is the Gulf Western Oil Nitro Champs at Sydney Dragway, kicking off on Friday with a bunch of Aeroflow Sportsman racing, plus top door slammer qualifiers with their first run around 3:30 on the Friday. Then we get into the residual for Group 1 on Saturday and Sunday. Our guest is the legendary Larry Dixon. Wonderful to have his company. It's like 7 in the morning right now in Avon in Indiana as he prepares to jump on a jet, come hang out with the rappers. I just love movies of that period, that early period in SoCal too. The American Graffiti, Larry, is such an iconic a film, all that front engine stuff with those badass goggles and those masks. And I'm pretty sure it's Steve Evans that's actually announcing in that movie, even back in the day, who was a legend himself.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, and they used I think for the track footage they used Fremont, which yeah, that track's been gone since the early 80s or mid 80s, something like that. And yeah, I mean you're trying to make it period correct, and it was just it's neat to have something like that captured on film. So when my kids get older, they can look at stuff and say their old man was there.
So, what are your earliest memories of Dad? In his competition, and he's explained he was a national champion as well back in like '70 or somewhere around there. What are your memories as a kid with Dad?
Oh gosh, it was I mean, since before I was born, he was racing. So I mean, as far back as I can remember, you hop in the back of the station wagon and you got your pull along trailer with a top fuel car and you're going to the meets. And it's like I remember the Lions drag. I remember when my dad crashed at Lions, broke a crankshaft in a front engine car and tumbled and the car broke apart and he broke his wrist and got some burns. So it's like some of that stuff's ingrained, but I also remember getting in that same station wagon and towing back to Indianapolis for the Nationals, and it'd be a 3-day tow, and it was just. But when you showed up there, I mean, there was I don't remember the 100 top fuel cars, but I remember 65 of them showing up for a 32 car field. And it just seemed like anybody who's somebody that had a top fuel car went to Indy because that was the two races that everybody showed up for was for the U.S. Nationals and the Bakersfield March Meet. And it was just that the most top fuel. And so if you could go rounds there, it kind of I don't know, I guess ranked you, where you stood. And my dad seemed to, be able to go to some semifinals and stuff, won the Winter Nationals at Pomona. But there was so many, it wasn't just NHRA back, in the
Yeah.
late 60s, early 70s, AHRA and IHRA and UDRA and PDA. And because there were so many cars and there were so many racetracks that you could have meets at different parts of the country going on at the same time and it wouldn't affect one another. It was a great time. For somebody who grew up that loves drag racing, it was a great time to grow up.
There's a really cool little place just near Ottumwa in Iowa, Eddyville Raceway Park in Iowa, right near the Knoxville Raceway, or not far from it. And I go there whenever I get time, and they have some amazing, old, historic nostalgia sort of cackling pipe sort of stuff there. And it's just such a beautiful culture to see those cars so preserved and that culture preserved.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's the crowd that you hang out with. I enjoy, and I've run at Eddyville before. We've run the 2-seat top fuel car at
Yeah, right.
Eddyville, and they booked us in and actually gave away a ride to a fan. So that was a fun event. But it seems like I mean that car culture. That's why I enjoy the drag week that Hot Rod magazine puts on, and then there's some other drag and drive events, Midwest Drags and such. Where the only people that are there are people that are into cars, so it's like everybody that you chat with is you got the same kind of
Yeah.
vibe going on, and then you're towing your or driving your car from track to track, and it's like you show up in another track and race your car, and it's a blast. I mean, it's how I imagined it was back in the day. So it's fun to do that every year or so.
The concession window still has, the old board with the letters that you press on with like Gatorade or Powerade and popcorn and all that sort of stuff. So it just feels like you're stepping back in time. And it seems so familiar, even if you weren't there, like we weren't as Aussies growing up in that. It just seems so familiar because of the television culture and the movie culture and stuff like that. So I love the Midwest of America. It's one of my really favorite places. People are so genuinely friendly, not so much in the cities, and I don't say that with any disrespect, Larry, but when you get out in regional Indiana, where people are just genuine and will stop and talk, it's a beautiful part of the world.
It's I when I got married, I born and raised in Southern California, and then we got married. We're going to start a family, and it's like I wanted to be around the race car and my family at the same time. So moved to Indianapolis 25 years ago. But it's kind of the wanting to teach your kids the pleases and the thank yous and such, and then
Yeah.
have it returned as well. And it's a little bit calmer here, I guess, than LA, and kind of could keep tabs on your kids and your family and such. And so I enjoy it. With my dad passing last year, it kind of forces you to
Yeah.
see where your roots are from and such. And like my Dixon family, like they were raised in Illinois, and what. Yeah, there was a couple brothers, and one of them moved to Southern California. And so I guess that'd be my great grandfather moved to Van Nuys, California, and then my grandfather was born there, and then my dad, and then me, and then all of a sudden, a few generations later, we move it back to the Midwest. But I enjoy it here. Indianapolis obviously is a racing town, so it's like you run into people and you talk, like, oh yeah, you're involved in racing, and people, they have a follow-up question. Well, what kind of racing? Not just,
Yeah.
oh, is it like, Jeff Gordon or Jimmy
Yeah.
Johnson? No, it's they know drag racing, sprint cars. You go to sprint car, open wheel or dirt. I mean, it's great. And then obviously in the month of May, it's like, I mean, you can drive in neighborhoods and people have checkered flags out and welcome race fans banners, and it's just
Yeah.
for a car guy, it's cool to be around that.
There's no structure to what we're doing here, unfortunately, Larry. When you say things, it triggers
That
me. Um,
that's good because I'm not very structured.
Tony Stewart. I mean, nobody would have seen, I don't think. Tony is a very, very good race car driver. And there's been, Kyle Larson is definitely the it guy, right? The planet talks about Kyle. He's a phenomenal talent. But Tony was the Kyle before there was Kyle. So he was the guy that ran Winston Cup and won, and he was the one that ran midgets and sprint cars and all those cool things. But he has adapted very quickly to Top Fuel. Are you surprised to see him already pick up a Wally?
No, no, not at all. I mean, I, to be honest with you, and I'll get back to your question, but like when my kids started talking about racing and stuff when they were really young and wanted to hop in the juniors, I want them to go karting first, and it was just to be able to get that seat of the pants feel that you wouldn't get going in a straight line. And that's from my own personal experience.
Yeah.
I just grew up straight line racing, and it takes a while to get that. But if you get into karting or something where you got the rear
Yeah.
end of the car sliding, you get that feel. It's going to help you so much when you're drag racing and having that feel and the spinning the tires and doing all of that. And so to have him do what he did, no, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, he's excelled at everything else. And I mean, and I mean, he was an IRL champion at the same time too. He
Yeah.
did Indy cars as
Yeah.
well. And you were talking about snack bars. He owns the Eldora Speedway, and
Hmm.
he's kept all the prices, for the concessions, like to
Yeah.
1970s prices, and so no, he's a obviously a car guy through and through, and it's neat to see him, and it's good for the sport because there's a lot of people that I mean, drag racing is much more of a niche sport than
Yep.
the a national series like IndyCar, NASCAR, or even obviously Formula One and such. So to have him get involved, it opens it up to new fans, and to see him out there, where maybe you go to a brickyard where there's 400,000 fans, you're not going to be able to sign autographs for all 400,000. But if you go to an NHRA meet and they got 15,000 people there, he's out there, and I literally think he tries to sign every single autograph possible. So it's neat to see, and he's surrounded himself with a good group of people. He's
Yeah.
got a good team, a good group. So And I've learned through the years, it's like you surround yourself with good talent, good things will happen, and that's what he's done, not just through drag racing, but all the other motorsports he's been involved in.
You touched on the accessibility of drag racing, and I don't think there's any other form of motorsport that has that fan team accessibility. I mean, you know it. There's a group of people like at a concert that just go to every car as it fires up in the pits. It's just this nitro junkie, next one, next one, next one, next one. And you can literally watch someone, you guys do what you do that close. It's the accessibility, I think, is the massive advantage that it has over any other sport.
For sure. I learned it the hard way when Formula One came to Indianapolis. Now this is going back, 25 years or something like that. And it's like, hey, you go in the pits, and it's like, now you just don't get to go in the pits, Formula One. And so it's like you get spoiled, and you kind of think that that's how everybody else lives, and no, it's not. I mean, NASCAR, you got to have all these
Yeah.
credentials and cards and everything to be able to get on pit lane and such, and IndyCar the same kind of thing. Can't wear shorts, your knees show. It's just I don't know. I'm glad I grew up a drag racer.
The Formula One phenomenon, they have the most diehard fans in the world because honestly, the racing itself, I'm going to piss some people off, but I don't care, is not that great. It is the drama that the Netflix series has provided, the development of heroes and villains and all that sort of stuff, Larry, that has propelled that in the last couple of years in particular. And I watched a Netflix documentary the other day called Mr. McMahon, and it's the Vince McMahon documentary through the wrestling. And it's a phenomenal study, Larry, in heroes and villains and understanding and reading a market and placing something in the entertainment world. You have raced against some of the Goliaths of drag racing, American drag racing, and being one yourself. What was it like growing up in that incredible era where the gods of the sport were doing what you were doing?
Oh gosh, there again, I think that when you grow up in the middle of it all, you don't really notice or pay attention to it. But the times that like we were racing, full time, the Budweiser against the Miller beer kind of
Yeah,
that was a lot of heat, a lot of pressure from the corporations. I mean, obviously times have changed. You don't have those big corporate company. The tough part is getting some of that rivalry is really having, like each week in and out, both cars, both teams running well every week. I remember the first year that I drove for Miller, and and you got Budweiser already out there. We didn't race once the entire season. So it's like, how do you have, it's like, our car was running well and Kenny's wasn't. So we're going rounds and he's going out early. And then, a year or two later, you flip it, he's running well and then we're going out. So it's like, you're not getting that.
yeah.
But then you get into a case where, we had Dick LaHaye as a crew chief and our car's running good. And he had Tim Richards. And so the cars are running good. And then it kind of really forces you to have your act together when you pull up there. And Kenny was such a great driver, really put a lot of pressure on me to get better at my craft. But it was good. And then when you beat him, it was very rewarding because it was just how hard it is. It's such a great team and a lot of talent over there, and you get it done. And then a few years later, you had the thing with Schumacher,
Yeah.
briefly there again. Like they ran well for a while and then we ran well for a while. And so it's like, but you have a year or two where you can, get it on and get in the ring with them, for a season or two. And it's fun. And it's what makes when you do win, that's what makes it so satisfying. It's like, you can't go on eBay and buy one of those trophies. Or I guess you
Mhm.
can, but you didn't
Yeah.
earn it. So it's just going out there and doing your best and hope it's enough.
That Miller Budweiser comparison would had serious commercial weight. The result of that, like I can imagine back then, in particular, the beer companies, brewing companies would have been marketing very aggressively. So if the Bud car had beaten the Miller car, or vice versa, boy, there would have been some beer foam flown. I would have thought over that.
Oh, for sure. And it's like, and when you go, like when you go and do appearances and you go to the distributorships and you go to those morning meetings and you talk to the guys and you know, like the Budweiser guys are getting paid, you know, like a bounty for every banner, Miller banner they cut down and bring back to work. And so it's not just on the racetrack, you know, but then as time goes on and you know you have these big, you know, you know, venture capital groups and stuff come in, and you know now Budweiser's owned by the same people that
Yeah,
own Miller, that own Coors, and so it's like
yeah,
they 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 don't care. They really don't care what beer you buy as long as you're buying one of them. You know, they're
yeah,
not fighting against each other. Now it's like fighting against your brother, sister, cousin. So it's different. And so you see a lot of that now, and because I have people, gosh, you know, we need to bring that back, and it's like it ain't
yeah,
gonna happen. You know,
no,
they're all owned by the same people now, so it
yeah,
makes it tougher, but it definitely appreciates as you look back on it, that you know the times that you had, and being a part of that, because you know there was it got heated for a little while. I mean, in the
yeah,
you know the Monday morning afterwards, you know, you talk to your boss at Miller, it's like, how did you do, you know, and and then the second question is, how did the Bud car? And it's like
oh,
they don't even care who won the race. It's like, how the Miller car do and how the Budweiser car do. And it kind of really put the heat on you, let you know you need to be out there. You're not just racing for a trophy, but you're racing for a brand as well too.
Aussies, we love sport and we love things. Americans live them. You live beer. You live sport. You live so many things. It's not that we don't care as much, but I think outwardly Americans wear their heart on their sleeves a lot more. So the idea of suddenly my favorite top fuel driver switching to Miller as opposed to Bud or something would have been a catastrophic moral like compromise there because it's like, well, I love Dixon, but boy, I ain't gonna drink that Miller. So it's like
Yeah.
that's actually a cultural thing there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and leave it to the Americans to just you know, blow everything up. And it's like we traveled to Europe last, not 24, but in 23, and I really have more of a perspective of America once you step outside of it a little
Sure.
bit more. And yeah, we overdo everything and blow everything out
Well,
of proportion as much as we can. But you talk about the Bud Miller thing. I thought about that with Bobby Rahal and even Daryl Gwynn. You know, Daryl Gwynn, you know, he raced for Coors and he raced for
yeah.
Budweiser. You know, Bobby Rahal, he raced for Bud and for Miller. So it's you know,
It's double fisting. I was a massive Rusty Wallace fan, so the MGD car was as cool as it got for me, and it was just black with yellow with a big number two down the side. But boy, it was cool as hell. And I remember having a beer at Knoxville Raceway, and I had a Budweiser Bill Elliott shirt on because I just loved the shirt. It was a cool polo. And an American guy says to me, "Bill Elliott fan, huh?" And I said, "Well, no, actually, I just like the shirt." And he goes, "Another fucking Aussie." Sorry, I like Bill Elliott and I like Rusty, so I was conflicted. Your dad was a huge part of your racing career as someone that you looked up to and aspired to be. I can't imagine how incredibly proud, Larry, he would have been of your career because when you look back on it, it is phenomenal.
it's well, I guess later in life you start looking at stuff like that. But you know, I didn't for a long time. I'm such a big fan of him and his racing career and everything he did. And then he started signing his autograph, Larry Dixon's dad, and it used to
Yeah,
make it. It used to irk me so bad. And I'm like, what are you doing? Don't do that. And he's like, yeah, I mean, he just
yeah.
blow me off. Really didn't give a crap what I thought, you know? And then it's like, but as time went on, and then I start having kids, and then now they're starting to get involved in racing. It's like I understand it a little bit more. It's yeah,
Yeah.
you're proud of your kids, so I was slow to get it, but I understand a little bit more. And then, you know, with him passing last year and collecting, he probably has a VHS tape of every single race that I ever competed in, and it's like I lot of VHS tapes. There's not very many VHS players, but it was cool, and I just I mean, I got involved. I grew to love the sport through my dad,
Yep.
and as a kid growing up, I wanted to race top fuel cars like my dad, and so getting an opportunity to do that and to do it for a long period of time and be with a lot of great teams and got to show well doing it. I just I feel very fortunate, and I mean, I really owe it to my dad. If it wasn't obviously for my dad, I wouldn't even, know about the sport or any of that. So um, uh, it's been a fun ride.
It's a very generational sport, drag racing, and I see it a lot with with Santo, with Junior and Santino, and him being able to do that with his boys, with Jim Reed and Phil and Bruce, and now Curtis and Adam, working on that car, and Curtis is running, supercharged Outlaw now as well. So it's beautiful to see the way that everyone is. Josh Lay is watching at the moment, and Josh, his dad was a badass funny car racer, but his granddad Rolly was like a raced in the US as well in funny cars. So you have this incredible generational thing in drag racing.
Yeah, yeah. I tell people that I don't know any better. You grow up in the sport, and I really enjoyed it. I liked the travel. I liked every single day being different.
Yeah.
It wasn't like just going in and clock in and your factory or whatever. And I just like get up in the morning. You don't know how long your day is going to last. You don't know where you're going to be. You don't know what you're going to do, but you're doing it. And it was and it's around cars. And so I just I love that part of it. Going through some of my dad's stuff, I found programs of my grandfather going to circle track races in the 40s,
Oh,
and
wow.
keeping track of lap times and things like that. It's just like, like just then you want to have that one conversation just to be able to grab a little bit more. But it definitely, and he grew up in a car family, and I grew up in a car family, and now my kids are doing the same thing. So it's fun. There could be worse things to grow up around. So I'm proud of it.
You became very good friends with one of the luminaries of drag racing, and Mr. Prudhomme. I can't even imagine how a kid from SoCal who dreams of tugging on dad's, overalls and stuff becomes friends and then just becomes entrenched. But what was it like, that incredible relationship you had with him?
It was great. I stayed working there for 20 years, but before that, I grew up in the same town as him and his race shop. And then, when my dad retired from racing, that was in the late 70s. So like there was this, from like 79, 80 to like 83 before I got my driver's license. And so there was a window where I needed to hitch rides if I wanted to go to the racetrack. And so like I would ride my bicycle to his shop, and without him even knowing, his crew guys, it was Billy Bevel, Joe Cozy, Steve Dragus, they would, like they'd hop in the truck and go to Orange County or Bakersfield, and I'd hitch a ride with them, like and
What
go to
you
the
did?
track, and
Yep.
it just it was neat times. And then I'm going to say several years later, I guess in 1988, they had a guy leave and they had an opening, and I lived in town, so they didn't have to put me up over the winter. It just kind of I fit the suit, so to speak. And then, but I would have never imagined him, you know, not ever like he raced funny cars my whole life, like that's what he did. And
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
all of a sudden he does it. And he goes to top fuel cars, and then he retires. And there again, I thought he'd race as long as Chris Karamessinis did or something like that, and got out of the car and gave me an opportunity to test in his car, and it went well, and sold all that to Miller. It just you don't have a plan for some of this stuff. It's just kind of like
Yeah.
it just kind of happens. You can't force it, and it's I don't know if it's fate or God or whatever you want to call it. Just right place, right time, and then having things doing well enough to have a guy like him take a chance on you. And then we had a good run. But, like I said, I worked there for 20 years, so it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot and got to do a lot of great things, and got some wins and championships. Worked with some great teams, great people. lot of great people, and learned a lot. So it was
It's
fun.
it's like you're in your own Truman Show, like you're just living in this bubble, not thinking, I better be good to that guy because maybe I might drive for Don Prudhomme. You're just living your life, right? And with it with an intent for sure, but probably not something that's thinking, I'm gonna make sure I win, and triple back-to-back championships and things like that in Top Fuel and travel the world doing it. I think at the time you just get up each day with, I'm gonna live the life that I love, right?
It's if you've seen the Karate Kid, maybe the younger generation hadn't seen the first one, but the wax off, wax on, and the paint and all that kind of stuff.
Yep,
And he's
yep.
doing all this stuff, and you're like, why the hell am I doing this? And it's like it takes me back. We just lost Ed Pink the
Yeah,
other day,
wow.
and I and,
Yep.
and I worked for him. Um, Before I got my license. So like I went to Van Nuys High School and I rode my bicycle and I would ride my bike after school to his shop and he would stay late because of traffic. So like I worked a shift from like 3:30 to 7:30 and I didn't work on any like I cleaned the mills, the lathes, all the and
Mm.
cleaned solvent tanks and everything had to be like done perfect and thorough. And it's getting back to what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
so you're learning this and you don't know why you're learning it, but everything that you do, whether it's cleaning a solvent tank or working on a cylinder head, everything has to be done perfect. Like it's not, if it's not right, it's wrong. There's no in between. So learning that kind of stuff as a young guy and then having that applied later in life and not knowing why you got to be perfect with a solvent tank, but then like you got to do everything that way and it's which is it's harder to teach that to the next generation but if you have passion for what you do it's still but it all still applies lessons I learned there gosh but 40 plus years ago still apply today.
It's phenomenal that you do the two-seater experience. I can only imagine some of the remarkable reactions that you've had. Now they sit behind you, right? The passenger sits behind you,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
you can just hear them
I would have
screaming.
loved. Yeah, I would have loved to have had them sit in
Yeah,
front, but insurance frowned upon that. So that made it an easy fix. They just put me in the front seat, put them in the back, and we don't have that shrouding around the roll cage. So like you could see pretty well. Like I mean, as far as rolling up the stage, you see the guy bringing you up, and you see the tree, and I'm the one that has to worry about the groove of the racetrack, and you could you know go along for the ride. So it's been fun. It's obviously I've had my challenges with it, but we're up to like 50 some rides with it, and I'm starting to book rides for this. We're coming up on summer, so run the car like July, August, September, and starting to sell rides and doing that. So it's been fun. It's definitely not a it's not a it's kind of a not an expensive hobby. It's just it needs to take care of itself.
yeah,
But it's I don't know. It's something like I feel like I'm giving back almost.
yep.
People that would never have an opportunity to feel. I've always had a lot of people. What's it like to go that fast? And it's like, well, hop in the back seat. Let's go check it out. People have that opportunity now that didn't forever and so the ones that really want to do it we've been doing it and so it's been fun and I'm still amazed that you could take a person for a ride go from 0 to 250 260 mile an hour in 3 seconds. It's a rocket ship and it's like I don't that car's not I had Don Garlits ask me about it and I was so that was a I'm not worthy, Wayne's World moment, having him talk to me about it. And he asked me about the engine and the tune-up and stuff. And I'm like, this isn't some dumbed down Disneyland ride. It's like if I'm selling a ride in a top fuel car,
You're going.
by damn, they're going for a ride. And he said, right on. And he was really animated and loud about it. And it made me feel good that I got him that excited. But the thing is, the car's heavier because it's got an extra cockpit and it's got an extra rider in it. So it's anywhere from 300 to 400 pounds heavier when
Wow.
you're going down the track. So you can't just calm it down. I mean, we run it. It's the same drivetrain and the same tune-up and such as the real top fuel car when we go. So yeah, people are getting a real ride when they go. And we've had, like I said, close to 50 people go for rides in the car, and it's been fun. It's been fun to do, and to just be able to uh, let people get that feeling if they want it.
I was never any good at physics. I don't even know why I bothered showing up to it, but I learned a bit about inertia, velocity, all those sort of things. And when you're adding that extra weight to that package to slow it down at the other end by the time you pick up that speed too, it's got to be a different experience to just pulling up your own fuel car.
A little bit, but to be honest, because we run that car eighth mile, we don't go 1,000 foot or quarter mile, so you have that extra space, and you don't have that extra speed. So that it kind of, I mean, we go to eighth mile tracks, and to be honest with you, I get bragged on by the announcers saying that I get the car stopped quicker than some of the pro mod cars and stuff. But our cars, lighter than most, and I it has brakes, and we use them, and I try to get the car stopped. So it's no, it's been that's been a lot of fun as well.
Damn, you've done it to me again. So 1,000 foot. I'm pretty sure that you own the ET for quarter mile racing in Australia before we switched to 1,000 feet. I think I read that somewhere, correct?
Yeah, and unless y'all bring quarter mile back, it'll be a record never be broken.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's yours.
Yeah,
You
some
made the
knucklehead from
comment
the
to me.
States that has the record.
Well, I think we can deal with that. We all understand that that's the spiritual home place of drag racing. Larry, you said to me last year when you spent a bit of time with me in the booth, because unfortunately we had some trouble with the fourth car, which was a phenomenal effort of the Rappers, and we'll talk about that in a minute. That you were impressed with the format of what NDRC does, how we have the all run format. Now you can't do that when you've got 16 cars and things like that, right? We do it as an economy of necessity. But you were impressed with the way we run at night time, and I was quite surprised that there's not a huge amount of competition at night in your side of things.
Yeah, well, and think it, we got soft. I think I think in America they got soft because it's like when I grew up, they my dad raced Friday, you qualify on Friday and you race Saturday night. So it's like they were not, people after work, and you've got these top fuel cars and funny cars with the flames, and it's like at night you can see them. It's such a spectacle.
Yeah.
And we don't do that, and it boggles my mind. And I just, either our sports got soft, or our drivers and teams have gotten soft. I don't know. I enjoy running at night. It, when you look at all the other motorsports out there, there is nothing. I mean, you run a NASCAR Cup car or Indy car or Formula One at night, and it's like
Yeah.
it's night. But a top fuel car at night, holy cow! I mean, you got header flames, and
Mhm.
if the tune-up's wrong, you got more flames, yeah, and such. So it's such a spectacle. I don't know why we don't take advantage of that more. And it's like it would be a you know, qualify on Friday night and you race Saturday night. And if you got Sunday as a rain date, if you need it, I mean, it makes so much sense. I don't know why we do it, but I'm sure there's somebody
Yeah.
higher up with more authority that would let me know why we don't do that. But until then,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask that question.
In that Vince McMahon series, they talk a lot about live television. Like when you got onto live TV, that was a massive, massive thing. So suddenly you're on Monday Night Raw or something like that. You get into America's heartland of the television sets. So you would also kind of have to think, well, wouldn't it be cooler to have, you on Saturday night or something like that on TV in Midwest America? But clearly, like you said, there's a reason why they don't.
Yeah, it's hard. We have, and there again, our country, it's got like, I mean, we have motorsports, but then there's 75 different types of motorsports,
Yeah.
let alone football and baseball and tennis and soccer and everything else that's going on. A lot of sports that you're competing in, and live TV's very important, and it's still a challenge, I think. Yeah, for the NHRA to put on a show on live TV. And so, but yeah, you got to think about it. You would think it would be easier on Saturday night. There again, I don't know. I'm not in the programming department,
Yeah.
but I think our cars would offer something more so than other sports if we could run them at night.
Yeah, for sure. Justin Walsh is just saying, who's one of the great characters of our sport, that Night and Nitro is the best racing except for the late pack ups. But not that Justin packs up anything. All he does is open the cooler anyway, Larry, so we don't have to worry about that. I watched an interesting interview with you today about your throat cancer. And I watched your physician or one of the physicians talk about how incredibly vibrant you were. It was hard for her to get her brain around that this guy's coming in to fight a disease that can be terminal, but you had so much just nitro, literally, of life going on. That must have been a period of great uncertainty for you and a very scary, probably more scary than anything you've done in a race car.
Uh, yeah, a little bit. A little scary because it's I'm less worried about sliding upside down, going down a racetrack at 300 mile an hour, because it's like you even in a case like that, you feel a little bit more in control
Yeah.
than you do of having cancer. So it's you're not in charge. You know, like you have your doctors in the hospitals, and you have the Lord. You know, that's like I always talk about, like, when there's you have a book. Your life is a book, and the first page is you're born on date, and the last page is the day that you leave, and it's up to you of all those pages inside. And it's like, I'm living life, I don't know when the last page of my book
Yeah.
is, and it's like I'm trying to get everything in. And it's like, but when we went in and talked about treatment and stuff, I got cancer. All right, it's in your lymph nodes. Okay. And it's like, like treated, you've got to say, treated correctly, you have a 98% chance of beating it. And I'm like, 98? That's like, I don't have that good of odds of winning the race this weekend, So it's let's do it. Let's get, because I got shit to do, like, come on. And that's kind of what happened. And it was, the last race of the season was Pomona. And I flew home on Monday, and Tuesday started radiation, and then Wednesday was chemo, and literally did that all the way through November, December, and then midway through January. And it's like I finished on a Tuesday or something like that. And then Wednesday, I was down at West Palm Beach, about 30 pounds lighter, and I don't have a lot of weight to lose, but it takes it out of you. But then you spend the next year and a half building yourself back up, and now that's that's over 10 years ago now. And so so far so good. But yeah, I don't I there's enough negative going on in life.
Mm.
Like, you watch the news, and I don't
Yeah.
watch a lot of it because it's doom and gloom, and it's like, I'm gonna try and find, you make a bad run down the racetrack, there's good information to be learned from it. And so, like,
Yeah.
it ain't gonna get me down. And so, we had to go through cancer with my wife as well. And it's like, we're winning till we're losing. I mean, that's how I
Wow.
attack everything. So, whether it's right or wrong, it worked for me, and that's what I preach.
That's really cool shit, Larry. Wow. It's such a coliseum effect watching any form of drag racing. It's side by side unless it's four wide, but there's two guys in an Exocet missile, but there's two guys standing right next to them setting the tune before they let you go. And in our sport in Australia, there's the Rapisarda brothers. It is such a great story. Like it is two kid brothers that should have been beating the shit out of each other with a cricket bat in as a kids, who are standing next to each other with 11,000 horsepower that they're just fettling and tuning and doing that. And just recently, you would have seen and heard Damien, around that 368, and Newbs was right alongside him at 373, side by side. As much as what Damien and Newbs get to do, the story of those two brothers, Larry, is one of the coolest things I've seen.
It's it it would be a great question to offer Santo, because yeah, putting the teams together and having being able to run two cars, at the most state of the art equipment and the best drivers and the best crews and the best parts and all that stuff, and then letting his boys, kind of have at it. And when they came over to the States, I guess somewhere in 2012-ish, and then they're going to start running more of the races. That Junior and Tino, they were like 18, 19 years old then. I
Yeah.
mean, they were kids, and now, now they're in their 30s and got girls and married, and they're older and they're running their cars, and their cars are hauling ass. And it's neat to see. It's from us, I'm going to say myself, a spectator point of view. It's neat to see that and see them grow and develop and do and great jobs and won championships now and multiple events. It's great to see. But I would think as a father, there's got to be
Mm.
a tremendous amount of pride seeing your boys go at it like that. So
Yeah.
I applaud the team for being able to do that.
And Santo could have easily and understandably walked away from the sport and could have gone, no, that's cost me too much already. It's just too hard to go and do that again. And I love that tribute to Louis that's on every one of those cars anytime it touches the racetrack. I love the way that Junior touches the wing when he walks past and does his little Catholic cross as well. And so there's just so much humanity in this sport, Larry. As much as it's 11,000 horsepower that hits you in the chest when you guys leave, I love watching it later when the helmet's off and the way the crews interact and the families are there. And to me, it's a very human and flesh and blood sport more than it is just nitro.
For sure. I mean, the 3 or 4 seconds you're on the track, you're battling. But when you tow the cars back to the pit, that's your neighborhood for the weekend. So it's like
Yeah.
you see that, not just the Rapisarda team, but you have the other teams kind of interact. And it was one time that I want to towing back from the pits. Our wing, the front wing, got run over, and one of the other teams, I think it was Peter Ziveris, their team loaned us a wing so we'd be able to finish. I mean, it's like you help your neighbor out while you're there. If they need a hand, you do it. And it's like I enjoy that part of it. It's, yeah, you battle on the track, but after that, everybody's sharing a beer.
We don't have anywhere near your population or your economy, although who knows where that's headed. But we have a smaller car count for sure. But I think we've stepped up our game, and that 368 was for a little while there must have made Brittany look over her shoulder a little bit. But since then they've stepped it up again. But even you have to be impressed, I would think, with the way that Australian top fuel racing has evolved in the last few years in particular.
Oh, 100%. And what makes it evolve is the competition. It's this team stepping up their act, and then and then the other team has to follow suit. Otherwise, they're just going to get beat up all the time. So you really see. I've noticed that, the first time I came down there, I think was in 2013, and the level of competition, amongst the teams, you have 4, 6, 8 cars show up for an event. But all those cars have raised their game, and it's that's what makes everything in life, and not just drag racing, but I mean football or soccer or anything else. It's competition makes you better.
It's such a sport where the window starts like this and it's all judged. It gets back to this point here. The setup of the car, the working on the car, then the idea of the actual start, not blowing up hours and hours worth of work by turning the tires at the lights and the runs done. Then it's down to 60 footers, then it's half track. Everything is in micro millimeters now with data downloading and stuff like that. As a driver, how do you block all that sugar honey iced tea out and go, I just need to get this thing down the road so these guys behind me haven't done this for nothing?
Well, it's I mean, our sport, and I guess, motorsport, you don't have to be perfect. You just got to be better than whoever you're running.
Hmm.
And so and you get that maximum effort from everybody. I mean, where every job, right from putting the air in the tires to the wheelie bar height to the, measuring the clutch pack, rebuilding the blowers, everything you try to make everything perfect, and whoever's most perfect, like on the track is going to get the win light. So you just try and do your job. I can't worry about whether the clutch is set right or if the
Yeah.
blower's done right. It's like I got my own checklist. You making sure you got the car in the groove, that you're getting a good light and you're getting the car down the track and you're not running it too far. Just and trying to, if it does spin the tires, try to catch it quick. Especially on race day. Like be able to, you know, give your team a win light. So it's just, I don't know, a lot of years. Read a lot of sports psychology books. You worry about the things you have control over, and don't worry about anything else, because it ain't gonna do you any good.
After the event, do you come down? Like it must be a point where, I mean, you're a pretty energetic guy anyway, right? You exude a lot of energy anyway. But when you're out there at the traffic lights, leaving the venue and stuff, how do you go from this when you're doing 500 to kilometers per hour for our American friends,
I get it.
and running threes to then going back to a normal life, reacting at the lights? Do you ever approach traffic lights the same way? Do you always have to leave first? Like, how do you separate Larry the person to Larry the racer?
Well, on that particular subject, it's really easy, because when you step on the throttle in your road car, you floor it, and you're barely going to get a speeding ticket. So it's just, I don't know. It's very apples and oranges. I tell my family, because it's like I don't race around town. I don't do any of that stuff, and it's probably because I get it out of my system on the racetrack. It's just it's two different worlds. But like I am excited when I'm there, is because it's like I love this. It's
Yeah.
like I went to the races and did this uh as a kid. Like I was ate up with it, and now I'm close to 60, and still love it. I feel like I'm cheating the system every time I get to go to the track.
I love seeing you here. You add such an amazing energy, and it's incredible to think what the rappers are doing. You join us for the Nitro Champs this weekend, an event that you won 2 years ago. You took Phil Lamartina down, and I want to send a shout out to the Lamartinas as well, Larry. They had an incident a couple of weeks ago. One of the young crew members got injured in a nitro blast, and a young Lex is down in Melbourne, and it's going to be a long recovery. But I know that the Lamartina family are right behind him, and the NDRC family and everyone is right behind him as well. And I know that Phil's going to look forward to running you as hard as he can on the weekend, along with Felipe Reed. And you also got Damien is on fire, and Noobs is absolutely rocking as well. So it's going to be an amazing weekend. I just wanted to send a shout out to the Lammers. It's a brutally competition sort of based concept, this sport, but we all care, don't we?
Oh, 100%. When we came over for that one race, I guess it was Easter weekend in 13, brought the whole family over with me, and my kids, hooked up with the Lamatina kids, and at the time they were kids, because
Yeah.
I mean you're going back a dozen years now, and so they've didn't know us from anybody, and welcomed us in, and real good people. And there again, it's like I talk about the pit area. Like when one of your neighbors is hurting, or you lose a family member, it's the whole pit hurts as well too. And that's what family and what neighbors is all about.
It's really good to catch up with you. I thank you so much for getting up at 7 in the morning for me, mate. And at very short notice before you get on the bird and come down here, the Gulf Western Oil Nitro Champs at Sydney Dragway for the NDRC. Now, we've had 4 different winners in 4 rounds, Larry. So it's up to you to keep the trend rolling. No pressure.
I'll try and do my part. I appreciate it.
Enjoy the cold weather until you get here. Should be nice and, well, dry. That's all we're aiming for. I don't care how cold it is. We're looking for dry. Have a safe trip down here. Tommy Johnson Jr. missed his flight or had to get on a second flight recently for his funny car commitments for the Aeroflow series and flew first class with only 6 people on the plane. So talk to Sando, get him to hook that up.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm just happy when the plane, takes off and lands. As long as I'm still on it, I don't care. So we'll see you there, though. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sounds great, Larry. Have a wonderful day, and thank you very much for joining us today. What an absolute god of our sport, Larry Dixon. Such a cool cat, isn't he? Fingers crossed. Weather's going to be good. We're going to rock the place. 15 door slammers, 4 Aeroflow by X-Pro Nitro funny cars, 5 top fuel drags. It's going to be absolutely wicked. Get out to Sydney Dragway this weekend, folks, for the Gulf Western Oil Nitro Champs. Be careful on the roads over the next couple of days. Look forward to seeing you on the weekend, everybody. It's going to be so good. See ya.